Awesome. So good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today as we explore probably one of the most underutilized but incredibly powerful business tools that we all have access to, LinkedIn. We will take a pretty deep look into how you can kind of ensure your profile is built to optimize your networking, your job seeking, and the prospecting opportunities that you might be looking for. To help us do this, I'm really grateful to bring two awesome members of our community who will facilitate and guide us through this conversation. I'm excited for them to share some of their advice, their experiences, and I'm sure tons of tactical best practices for you guys as well. Let's look at some introductions. So firstly, I'll start with myself. I'm Siobhan Dorks. I'm the president of the Advertising Production Club of New York. We are an organization that seeks to support students who are looking to enter the worlds of media, creative production, and advertising. We also work with many of the professionals who are already in the industry to support them with their continued education and provide them with opportunities to meet peers and share experiences. We achieve this by providing educational events for students and professionals, and we fundraise for both our scholarship fund as well as our internship programs. Like many organizations, we've moved to a more online programming model in the last year, pretty much fully online. We've done all we can really over this period to continue to provide the valuable content and the conversations that we believe and hope that you guys as a community want to be having. And so we're really grateful that you're able to join us tonight for this one. As well as these webinars, we often have virtual meetups, which are a really great way to stay connected and meet others in the community. So whether you're a student, a young professional, or someone that's been in the industry for a long time, please keep an eye out for those. It's a great way to kind of continue to contribute to the industry that we've all been a part of or we're coming into. So on to today's topic, and I'm really happy to introduce both Nigel Cliff and Deborah Corn. Nigel is a very experienced multi-channel marketer with over 30 years of experience in combining kind of marketing with the technology space. He's also the CEO of Value Exchange, a business he created to train others on how to repeat the same type of success he had seen in building engagement, generating business for his own clients. He's a coach, a speaker, and a passionate evangelist of LinkedIn, as I'm sure you're going to see today. Anybody that doesn't know Deborah, and many of you will, wears many hats. Most of you may know her as the intergalactic ambassador to the Printerverse. Just to give you a little bit more context, she's an industry speaker, a blogger, hosts various podcasts of her own, as well as being the founder of Project Peacock. She's also been an APC board member for several years and works absolutely tirelessly to support our community in so many ways. I love passing the host floor to Deborah, as I know the conversation will be in incredible hands and there'll be lots of wonderful magic that happens along the way. So Deborah, over to you.
Thank you so much. Actually, Nigel is the founder of Print Media Centr, which maybe he'll get to later. Yes, he actually found me on LinkedIn.
I love that story.
That is how we met. We actually have an origin story that I'll leave for Nigel to tell. But one of the we get together behind the scenes sometimes, and APC just put out a really interesting survey and asked their members about topics that were of interest. And I think the second most topical was professional advancement, professional information about career. And we had already had this program in the works. So it just is perfect timing, especially since the time of the year that it is. This is a good time to start, making sure that all your ducks are in a row. And quite frankly, with these vaccines, there is light at the end of the tunnel, the pandemic tunnel here. It might not be next month, but we can see the light now. And that also means that people who were laid off are probably going to have an opportunity to start looking for work again, and all of that will start up. So this is a great time to start, really making sure that what I refer to it is that your house is in order before you go out marketing yourself, which is what you're really doing. You're creating a personal brand of who you are as a worker. And you want to be able to communicate that and have that understood by everything that you have out in the world that people can see when you're not there, which is really important, because more than likely people are meeting you and researching you and you are not there. And then if they see everything they like, that is when they reach out. So this is the perfect time to bring Nigel in, and even, look at this as kind of a series, bring him back towards the middle of the year and the end of the year, because as as the world changes and evolves into what I'm calling the next normal, um, the way we interact, the way we network, the way we communicate is going to be evolving, and keeping up your personal brand is very important. So Nigel, I'm going to turn it over to you right now.
Thank you, Deborah. That's a great introduction. Yeah, it's the world's changed, and it probably will never go back to how it was. I often think, as a starting point for this, is when people are looking for something online, they go straight to Google, straight to a search browser, and they're looking for things, and they're looking for people, looking for talent, looking for experience. And so often I find that when I ask the question about somebody's profile, are you proud of your profile? They go, what? Proud of my profile? What? I've not even looked at my profile for 3 years. And I'm thinking, that's crazy. That's the first place that people are going to look before they look anywhere else, before they get hold of the phone and before they email you. So they're going to be looking at that profile. And so many people are not proud of their profile. And I find that incredible. Get your profile sorted, guys. So listen, this evening, we're going to go through as many tips as I can possibly give you in the next hour. I'm going to share as much as I can. Deborah's going to interrupt me and ask me questions that are put in the chat. We'll leave a little bit of time towards the end, obviously, to address those. But I'd like this to be your session. I'd like this to be something we share together, and I'm asking your questions. Believe me, I can talk. I am totally enthusiastic about LinkedIn. It literally changes lives. I can't tell you how many lives I've seen change as a result of using this platform effectively. New careers, changing careers. I've even worked with people like rocket scientists. Can you believe? It's quite incredible just what can be achieved on LinkedIn, and the range of things that we can do is just extraordinary. But we're here tonight to talk about, how can we make our own personal brand more effective? How can we improve what we're able to achieve from LinkedIn? What are some of the tips and tricks that mean that we can be more effective on LinkedIn? And some of those are the things we're going to go through. But I thought we'd kick off with a poll tonight. We have a couple of questions to ask you. We came up with these ideas early on, and I just thought it'd be nice to interact with the poll a little bit. Thank you, Deborah, right on cue. Do you mind just filling in that poll for me to give us an idea of the answers to these questions? Do you think your LinkedIn profile gives a good impression to your prospect and customers? That's number one. And number two, at present, how do you feel about the quality or quantity of your LinkedIn network? So just what sort of networks have you got around you? Are they powerful? I use this expression, I am a product of the people I surround myself with, and that makes me very special. And I really mean that. My network is everything. The people I work with, my clients, my prospects, my customers, my partners, my friends, people I've worked with over many decades are kind of all then. It's like a big family on LinkedIn, all there and able to be communicated with. So it's a real special place for me as I build that community over time. So it's going to give us a great idea about some really interesting and fundamental questions about how we look upon our LinkedIn profile already. Do you think you're living product impression? 48%, half of people, yes. Okay, so good impression, half. Let me tell you a little secret. Of all the people I train, and I've done this little exercise for some while. I've got my own kind of the Nigel Cliff scoring method of looking at somebody's profile, and it's based on from complete novice with barely 1 out of 10 up to an absolute expert, who's literally ticking all the boxes. And I'm not sure if I even tick a 10, but let's assume I ought to be a 9. Heck, what am I doing here if I'm not a 9? And I look at the profiles of people I'm training or about to train, and really sadly, would you believe that the net average amongst all the profiles I ever look at is less than 4? Okay, so most people are barely out of the starting blocks, and it's also, I reflect on the fact that when people say they give me a 6 or a 7 in their opinion of where they are, and I look at their profiles, I'm thinking I can see a lot of room for improvement here. So what I'm seeing here is half the people on the call are thinking they're okay, we're giving a good impression. I'd like to dig a little deeper into that to give you some further tips on what we can do to make that even better impression amongst our audience. Let's have a look at the next one. It's full of valuable connections. About a third of people have got valuable connections. Fantastic. That means 2/3 of you haven't, but you've got some good connections, could do better. A big section there. We got basically nothing in the rest. So yeah, thanks, Deborah. That's really, really interesting. Thanks for sharing that, everybody. Really appreciate it. Okay, let me tell you, there are 2 things to get right on LinkedIn to make LinkedIn a success for you. It's quite simple at the top level. The first is to have an optimized profile. A profile that is attractive to both people and to algorithms. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean is that your profile serves more than just the view of a person looking in. It also contains content and vocabulary inside that profile, particularly in the headline, in the about section, in the experience section, and in your skills, that helps inform LinkedIn to determine what kind of content LinkedIn might think you're interested in. It's a fundamental part of the way that the algorithms work. And therefore, we're doing a job for both the algorithms to ensure that the keywords that we want to be found for are going to be in that profile. But also, secondly, we want that profile to be attracted to the audience that's going to be coming looking at us. The second one is engagement. Simple as that. Profile and engagement. Now, there are a lot of nuances in the engagement piece. That is where the art and the magic and the nonsensicalness of LinkedIn comes in. Is that even a word? But that is where the secret sauce lies. You can have the best profile in the world, but if you're not active on LinkedIn, if you're not engaging, if you're not posting content, if you're not engaging on other people's content, which is a really important factor, then you're kind of dead to the algorithms. You know, you've kind of gone into a box with a lid on it as far as LinkedIn is concerned. So when it comes to seeing the right things, you're probably not going to be seeing much of any value in your homepage feed, and LinkedIn just kind of doesn't know what to do with you. So by being active on the platform on a regular and consistent basis, you're giving LinkedIn so many signals about the kind of things that you're interested in. And people often say to me, Nigel, I'm finding LinkedIn is getting like Facebook. You know, it's full of things that are relevant to me. You know, videos of cats. Nothing wrong with videos of cats, but I wouldn't expect to find that on LinkedIn. And that tells me that they're not engaged on LinkedIn. They're just going to look at LinkedIn. And because they're not giving any steer to the LinkedIn algorithms of what they're interested in, then of course, LinkedIn's algorithms don't know what to put into their feed. So the net value of that feed just reduces and reduces to the point of being like Facebook, for example. So one thing I urge you to do is be strategic on LinkedIn. Don't get involved in things that might interest you, which you might like videos of cats, for example. Bear in mind that this is kind of a professional environment, and what I want to do is improve my professional experience. So therefore, engage with things that are relevant to your world as opposed to things that are not. Because if you spread your net too wide, you'll just get a whole gamut of things come into your homepage feed, which is not going to serve you well in terms of getting you known in a sector. The content will all sharpen up to be really, really useful for you, and you'll find that whole LinkedIn experience just becomes so much better. So have a strategy, you know, have a purpose. What does good look like? I often ask people that question. You know, if you go onto LinkedIn with no purpose, I think it was Lewis Carroll said, and you know, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. And I think a lot of people go onto LinkedIn like that. It's like, I'm just going to do my LinkedIn thing. You know, so I've got 15 minutes today to do something. But actually, they go onto LinkedIn with little purpose. Have a purpose. Decide what your own goals are going to be. What does good look like? What do you want to achieve? And make sure that every click you make on LinkedIn is actually helping you towards the direction of those goals. So any questions so far, Deborah, that have come up that we want to?
It's not exactly a question. It's a comment that I think that might help people put what you just said into action a little, because they might not be thinking like, well, how do I trigger these algorithms and things like that? So I just wanted to mention that you can search keywords that you're interested in on LinkedIn and then start engaging in those streams. So maybe you want to bring up that point.
Yeah, let me do better than that. Let me show you that point, because actually knowing that might very well come up. Just before we came onto the call just now, this evening, I was going through my feed, and this interesting post came up from a lady called Sarah Smith. I don't know Sarah Smith, but I think somebody who I know might have commented on it, and therefore LinkedIn put it into my feed. And you'll see here, very relevant to our time here today. It's print related, and you can see there's a video there of a foil process, hot foil process, quite simple, nothing clever going on about at all. But look how many interactions that piece of video has got. 8,000 views, 30 comments, and 20 reactions. Now, on any day of the week, that is a good interaction, and all we've got is a really simple video. So look how that simple piece of content is really helpful. And I just looked around here and thought, I wonder what this piece of content has got attributed to it. And here we have hashtags. Now, let me tell you, hashtags are really valuable on the platform of LinkedIn. And other places, but LinkedIn increasingly, especially so. And I noticed that hot foil was here, and branding and marketing and old school. That's probably having a little bit of fun there because we've got some old equipment. But I thought, I wonder what the world of hot foil is like on LinkedIn. So I don't know if you appreciate this, but we can actually search LinkedIn by adding the hashtag hot foil into the search bar on the top here, and it will take us straight to a community of people who share the interest in the hashtag hot foil. So do you know what? We can then follow that hashtag so that we're influencing the algorithms with the feed of that content. So now I'm going to increase the chances of me getting some of that content into my feed. Super. If that's my keyword, if that's my specialist area, then for sure I want to be following the keywords that are relevant to my space. Now, you also notice there's another one in here. In that, and it was branding. Now you might imagine that branding's got probably a much wider audience, and indeed it has. So I opened up the branding option, and what did I find from here? 18 million people involved in the world of branding. As it happens, I'm already following that myself. So the use of hashtags is brilliant in terms of finding your communities based around hashtags that are appropriate to your keywords. And I'll just throw in a little tip here, Deborah, if I may as well. What about creating a personal hashtag that you associate with your brand? Now, that might be the company name, because it could be, but why not make that a little bit more creative? I have one which I created, and I've used it now for about 12 months, Linked Incredible. I try to make people incredible on LinkedIn and credible on LinkedIn. So what about an idea to actually build your own brand around a hashtag, as well as have it in other forms that you might do?
I use hashtag Printiverse.
Exactly, Printiverse. So just to throw that out there, if you've not thought about that, why not find a unique way of getting your hashtag brand together? So is that where you wanted me to go with that? So like that community element?
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about the people who might be interacting and they're not getting the best feeds, it's because they're not on LinkedIn enough. So the reason I mentioned it was to optimize that time on LinkedIn, go right to the hashtags that you think you're interested in, or you think if you happen to sell things you think your customers are interested in. So you can be in the same stream as them and make comments on posts, or if you're looking for work for the stream that you think those people might be in. There is a hashtag question about hashtags that overlap. So let's just say like print industry might be two that overlap, or advertising and advertising agency are both active on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Are there, Lewis wants to know if there are best practices for that. I have my opinion, but you're the expert, so go right ahead.
Yeah, okay. My take on hashtags is this. A lot of people start off with the theory or the belief that we should, why don't we use trending hashtags? Okay, but they may be trending on content that's not relevant to what you're writing about. So just following trending hashtags as a thing is not a good idea. what I tend to do, and by the way, the optimum number of hashtags on a LinkedIn post is between 3 and 8, as determined by LinkedIn. I typically use 3 or 4 because it sits neatly at the bottom of a piece of content on a post. It just kind of works. If you go more than 3 or 4, it begins to look a bit like Instagram, and I don't think it's meant for that. So 3 or 4 is good. It kind of concentrates the mind on the best hashtags to be associated with your content. Now, what I would do across those hashtags is, in addition to having my own, as mentioned previously, I would choose a niche hashtag to be very targeted towards the audience I'm trying to attract. And I don't care whether that's got relatively few people in it, because it's a targeted community. And then I might have a slightly broader hashtag that's getting me to a slightly wider audience, but the audience is more generalized. So that would be my take on hashtags. I'd have a niche one to be very specific about the content relating to my content, and a wider one to sort of push my content to a wider audience. Does that make sense, Deborah?
It makes sense to me. I'm going to answer Lewis's question. To your point about the overlapping hashtags, and there's a lot of them. For example, omni-channel or omni-channel marketing. I mean, they're kind of the same thing, right? So you could use either or. So what I do is I actually go into them and see who's posting on them. You'll see some people using both of them because they want to cover all their bets. And then other people are, to your point, are specifically talking about omni-channel marketing. So they're in there, as opposed to people just having a general conversation about omni-channel, anything else. So that's one way that you can kind of differentiate, but there's a lot of overlap, and the most active ones, it's not about the most people, to Nigel's point. It's, you can go in there and see, and LinkedIn tells you when the posts were, and you can sort them by most recent. That's what I look for. If most recent's 2 weeks ago, I don't bother. But if it's a heavily used hashtag, it's good. Now, about the trending hashtags, it depends upon what it is. For example, if you're sharing content right now, it's Women's History Month, and for the girls who print, it's Print History Month. So if you're sharing the right content, it is great to get in on those hashtags. But if you're just including it with nothing having to do with women's history or women in print, then you're just jumping on a trend, and that is not optimal. I'm not sure if you're going to get to this later. If you do, people are asking about frequency of posting. You're going to get to that later.
Absolutely. This is the nuts and bolts of what makes it work. So the great questions. Frequency, let's hit that one on the head. It's absolutely a case of quality over quantity on number of posts. So I will typically do 2 posts a week, only 2. I might do them on a Tuesday and a Thursday rather than Monday and Friday. There's a sense in which the middle of the week tends to be a busier kind of period, but there's all sorts of data around that whole timing thing. But I will do about 2 posts a week, which I feel are going to add value to my network. I don't want to bombard people with content every day. I certainly don't feel the need to distribute content every day. I'm not a broadcaster. I'm not there to just be in everybody's faces all the time. And frankly, if I have nothing to say, I'm happy to go a week and say nothing. So that's the frequency thing hit. And I'm talking specifically about posts here and not articles. Articles are valuable in terms of their thought leadership content. And I might do one of those a month, every couple of months, because they don't get the engagement on LinkedIn like posts do. And they probably take me 10 times as long to write because they're more in depth. So they're good for the thought leadership to establish the depth of my personal brand on my expert topics, but they're not going to get the engagement. So I'm specifically talking about posts here. Now, I'll actually dig deeper into what makes a good post in a second. But one of the critical things around a post is if you've said something of interest and you're crafting the post in the right manner, then that post will get engagement. And what's critical is that you stay in the conversation of your own posts. And if you've done something of interest, that to be frank, can be quite time consuming. You know, if 100 people go in and comment on your post, which is wonderful, that takes time to interact with. So if you're going to produce quality content, you need to give yourself the time to interact and go in and respond to and thank people for commenting. And it's where the magic begins. It's where the relationship starts. And it's where we can have a bit of fun with the comments and get into a little side discussion. And you know what? Everybody looking in at this conversation can see that it's a nice little community and we're all friendly and we're kind of helping each other along, and people want to be a part of that. So the more you can get that conversational aspect happening around a LinkedIn post, then the better outcomes you will have down the line. It just makes you look like a decent human being. You've set off the discussion, and it just grows in value. So you mustn't forget that. And you know, I always make a point of trying to interact with every single comment that everybody ever kindly makes on my posts. So that covers the frequency. Now, what makes a good post? I think, you know, that's a question more or less, isn't it, Deborah here? Probably the best way is to, you know, I'll talk this through without showing you. I won't waste time showing you. There are a number of features on a post that are really, really important, and many people fail on one or many of these criteria. The first one is you have to catch my attention on the opening line. Okay, there is no point in hitting me with a big paragraph of text rambling on the first line. You've already lost my attention. We apparently have the attention of a goldfish, I am told. Probably mine's even less than that. But so therefore, if we're reading all this content, and you know, bearing in mind we're going to LinkedIn to have this transitory experience, we're not sit down to read a book when we go onto a LinkedIn for a LinkedIn experience. We want to be, you know, amused. We want to be informed. We want to learn things. So things need to catch our attention. So the first line is critically important. I hear some people saying that they spend as long thinking about the first line as they do the rest of the post. I can't think that is what happens in my experience, but it just expresses to me how important that first line is. The second point is leave a space after the first line and go into the third line, and also make that quite punchy too, because you know, you have that feature where if you don't click see more, you don't get to see the rest of the post. Well, just the clicking of the see more is an algorithmic signal on LinkedIn that people are finding your content interesting. So the more people click see more, the LinkedIn algorithm's going, ooh, people are finding this interesting, we'll share it to a bigger audience. Next point, at the foot of the post, create a call to action. Invite people into the conversation. So you're not making a statement and leaving the room. What you're doing is you're trying to get people involved in discussions, which is where the interaction comes in, which is all the goodness happens. So leave the conversation by saying, hey, what do you think? Have you thought about this? Have you tried this? You know, am I the only one thinking this? There are all manner of ways of asking a question, but you know, ask people to engage in the conversation that you'd like to have, and they're more likely to be invited to do so. So that's at the end. I've already mentioned the hashtags, so 3-4 hashtags that are relevant to the content above is good at the bottom. But let me also tell you a few of the critical points. I like white space. As a print and advertising community, I think we all understand the value of white space. If I see blocks of text hitting me on LinkedIn, I'm out of there. It's just too much for me to take in. So I sometimes unnaturally break up the content in such a way as I call it easy on the eye. All right, I can just scroll down this in a nice, friendly, easy, sort of relaxed way without having these big blocks of text coming at me. So avoid those like the plague. Another feature, there is something called dwell time on LinkedIn, and it's an important point to grasp. On a post, we have 1,300 characters which is the maximum number of characters we can have before we can add no more text. And you might think that, oh, it's on LinkedIn, it's social media, we'll keep it really brief, we'll just have 3 lines. Nah, actually, LinkedIn likes depth of content within a post. So what I'd encourage you to do is not make your post too short and too snappy, but actually give context. tell a story, give a reference, give more value inside that post, because people, when they dwell on that content by spending time longer reading it, LinkedIn's algorithms again pick that signal up and therefore effectively go, oh, people are liking this. They're spending those few nanoseconds longer on it. And therefore, once again, your content will get sent to a wider audience. All these add up to the tone of the right context for a post to make its way into the world and be amplified out. Now, a couple of other small things on here. Don't ever include a link out to another place, your website, wherever it might be, inside that post. When you embed an external link inside the content on LinkedIn, LinkedIn suppresses it. Okay, so they go, oh, we don't want to send this out to anywhere else. We want our viewer on LinkedIn, and therefore the algorithm actually suppresses your content at the very source, which is utterly mad. So you don't want to start your content off on a bad footing by embedding a link. So there is what we call a post edit method. Post the content without the link, hit post, get it out there, but immediately go back in to the post via the edit, the three dots at the top on the right, the ellipsis, and hit edit. Save your URL and then add your URL in as a post edit option. And that gets around the suppression factor, but you're still giving your visitor to your content the ability to go to the place you want to send them, be that website or wherever it might be, but you've got around the LinkedIn suppression algorithm. And that's such an important part of the process of creating a good profile, maximizing its algorithmic intensity by volume and style, hashtags, and also if it's clean and it's got no external links. LinkedIn absolutely loves it. LinkedIn wants your content. This is a point I cannot get over enough. LinkedIn is desperate for unique, original content from all of us. Such a relatively small proportion of people actually distribute content at all, that LinkedIn's desperate for your content. So if you can get into this habit of producing valuable content, sharing knowledge, sharing knowledge is the underpinning of that content strategy in my mind. If I'm sharing constantly what I know, people may not want what I have to offer them today, but at some point in their lifetime, they may want what I do, the service I offer, the products I sell. And if I'm in their, what I call their digital peripheral vision, then actually over time that I'm going to be attracted, they're going to be attracted to me, and I might get the opportunity to do some work. So those are some key criteria that make up a good profile. Was that a good attempt at an answer to that question, Deborah?
It was. I just want to bring it a little down from the 30,000 foot overview that you just gave, and people are very interested in the secondary post of the link. I just want to make sure, how much time do you needs to go by before you do that? Is it instantaneous?
Yeah, I pretty much do it. I'd have it ready, saved, and just do it instantaneous. Because you want to make sure that the visitor experience, of course, is a good one. They're going, well, that's all very well, but you told me about something, but now I can't finish that experience off. So just literally go straight back in and edit it immediately.
Okay. So everything that Nigel was just saying, I just want to give you a practical example of how it might be used. Okay. So let's pretend you're a designer and you're going to be looking for a design job. Well, now you can start sharing content that other designers would find of interest. And you can start doing that because what you want to do is get your feed, your information in front of all the people that you want to create in this community through what you're sharing. And using the tips that Nigel just gave you, it will be more friendly content, and LinkedIn will want to deliver it to those people. Then you can further add the hashtags and all of that. And after a while, if people start engaging with you, you can then say, hey, you're a designer, I'm a designer, I'm looking for work, do you know anything? And it's a way of creating a community. The same thing is if you're in sales, you post things that would attract the people you want to sell to, not about yourself, because that's going to attract people that do the same thing you do.
Yeah.
You want to post, you want to share to the people you want to attract, and even better, you want to share what the people want that you want to attract, want to share with their audience, because then it makes it then all of the social media platforms like give us more of that content because it's being passed everywhere. There is one question on Instagram and Facebook. The algorithms actually, you can get, like, I get stat reports on these things, and the algorithms sometimes penalize emojis because they don't recognize them. So I will get a report that says I have negative sentiment, but when I go and I look, it was a thumbs up or something. So it's not reading it. So the question was, does LinkedIn read people that like your post? Is it less does it make them less happy than if everyone's loving your post?
Do you mean clicking on, depending on which emoji you click on in terms of a reaction?
If you post something and your post has 17 likes and 500 loves, does that get better
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
rewarded than if it was the other way around?
Okay.
Or does it not care what emojis, as long as people are interacting, is the question.
Okay, so emojis as such, I don't think are too important, providing you're not using them in your name field. I think that's a killer. That makes you less findable. That's a slightly different answer, but just thinking of emojis on LinkedIn. When you're the secret sauce, if you like, again on LinkedIn, is in the comments. So from an attraction perspective, views frankly tickles my ego. You know, if I get lots of views, it makes me feel good, but actually I can often potentially have views without having interaction, and interaction is where the engagement and where the genuine relationships begin to happen and where the opportunities lie. So likes or reactions, as LinkedIn calls them, because we've got those 5 alternative options there, are one measure, and they're okay, they're good, that's fantastic. If I get lots of reactions, I'm happy. But what I measure the value of my content through and by is the comments. If I'm getting more comments and more interaction in that conversation on my post, I know that leads to opportunities. Views makes me feel good, but it doesn't necessarily lead to the conversations that I'm looking to have, whether I'm looking to move careers, find a job, attract new business, find partners. That is where those conversations begin. And of course, you must then see an opportunity with somebody who's making a comment and follow that up. Say, hey, Deborah, thanks ever so much for commenting on my post. I see we're not connected, but we seem to have a lot of overlapping interests. I'll be delighted to have you as a part of my network.
Mm-hmm.
Shall we hook up?
Right.
And the important part about that is keep it relaxed. And for those who might be inclined to be on the sales side of this, don't go into a sales pitch at any point. Don't go for the close.
Right.
There's nothing more of a turn off on LinkedIn than when people come selling at you. Honestly, It's not the way to do it. You're just there to begin the beginning of a relationship, which at some point needs to be got off LinkedIn. All right.
Yeah.
No good will come of a relationship sat on LinkedIn. Let's be honest. We're going to take it to a phone call. We're going to take it to an email. We're going to, in the future, we're going to take it to a coffee, and that will lead to the business opportunity of the future, or the career path of the future.
Right. Okay, so we have one question about a posting, and then we have a question about connections. Is that okay that we move in that direction? Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. The question about posting is, do you have a suggested maximum number of people you can tag inside a post? I want to let everyone know I actually hit the limit today. It's 50. But that's because I was tagging people specifically I wrote content about. So do you have thoughts on that? I don't.
Okay. Yeah.
I say tag everybody.
In favor of tagging a lot of people on a post, but it depends on the context. If, say, as we have today, an event, and you want to make people in your community aware that there is an event happening, then it's totally legitimate to tag them, because they may have an interest in that event. What I'm not in favor of is doing a post about subject X and tagging Y, Z, and Z people into it who have no relationship to the content. And the only purpose it seems to me that people are tagging you is because they want your influence on their content. And that's just forcing my presence into a conversation that's not even relevant to me. And
I'm constantly removing myself from conversations that people tag me in, and all these in-mail things. It's a nightmare.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Is it okay if we move to connections?
Please do, yeah.
Okay. All right. So we have a quality versus quantity on a connection question. And how often should you go through your connections and kind of unconnect with people? And is every connection worth having because you do get your information theoretically into their feed? So that's the question.
Okay. Well, first of all, just because you post it doesn't mean it gets into their feed. Let's start there. The feed and what we get in our feed is determined again by these algorithms. I can't avoid the use of the word and the concept, I'm afraid. But imagine that everybody on this call today just produced one piece of content tomorrow. All our inboxes will be flooded with content, and there's only like other 50 people on the call. So you imagine, 700 million people on LinkedIn plus, we couldn't possibly consume it. So there's an algorithmic filtering, if you like, of well, what does LinkedIn think Deborah Korn's going to find interesting today? And therefore it takes the whole body of all that content and filters it down to what it thinks Deborah's going to enjoy and get the most from. So just because we post it doesn't mean our connections will get it. That's an important point. I have a very firm decision around strategy around connections, in the sense that I like to genuinely keep my network of high value to me. So I from the very beginning, when Deborah, when you and I first started on the journey of LinkedIn, I just thought to myself, I'm hearing people say, connect with everybody because you never know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. And you then have a situation where you're connected to tens of thousands of people. Actually, LinkedIn ceiling, as you know, Deborah, 30,000. And I'm absolutely convinced if I had a strategy to have connected with everybody I've met, every conference I've spoken at, said, oh, connect with me on LinkedIn, I would have met that ceiling. And I thought, that's going to be a connection strategy, connect 30,000 people who actually mean very little to me. So I have about 5,500 connections, which is a lot, I know, relatively speaking, but relative to what I could have, it's relatively small. So I figure that I want to surround myself with, and I use this expression, people who can add value to my life, or I can add value to theirs. That is my strategy. That works for me. Now, I am not a celebrity. I don't need hundreds of clients, thousands of clients to be successful in my business, in my life. So my strategy works for me. However, in total respect to a situation like Deborah, who's building, a print production professionals network of 100,000 people in a group, that's a totally different thing. Deborah's going to want to be far more inclined to build and grow that network on an ongoing basis, because that's a different strategy. So my question, I put the question back to you as individuals, on the call today. What is it you're trying to achieve? Have you got a consumer product that you need hundreds of thousands of customers for, or are you a niche organization, supplying goods and services to a relatively small number of key clients, and actually just winning one key client in the next year could change the fortunes of your business? There's a whole different strategy between the two. And I think what I've just tried to explain is where do you fit in that? And therefore you make your own decisions. Do you want to add something to that, Deborah?
I would just say that I actually spend a lot of my time now disconnecting from people because I only have 111 connections left before I can't connect with anyone else on LinkedIn. And to your point, I have 110,000 people in my group. I can't even connect to I can connect to about a third of them. And if LinkedIn ever bothered to look, they would see that people asked me to connect. I didn't seek them out. So therefore, I'm not a spammer person. And they should kind of have exceptions for actual real people who are doing things. But we'll see tomorrow. Maybe I'll get an exception.
Yeah.
In this exercise of how do I make a judgment of who I am throwing off my network, I started with IT people, which might seem rude, but I don't really understand what they talk about most of the time. They're not going to really, help me. I mean, I know enough that if people need help, I know who to send them to. I mean, do I need to be connected to 8,000 IT people? Probably not.
Mhm.
So I started weeding people out that way. But in the beginning, I, they said IT is going to shut down the webinar. In the beginning, I was connecting with people because, they led to another connection. So that's what I would say. At this point now, I really don't give up I don't, I don't really accept a lot of connections, but not because I don't want to, I just can't. So I
Yeah,
actually changed my LinkedIn thing from connect to follow,
yeah,
to try to avoid that. But it's very difficult. I would say a really good judge of who you want to connect with is who are they connected to as well, and you can see that. Something else I do is I go to their LinkedIn profile and I look for their recent activity. And if they're not active and they're not active in groups I'm active with or with having conversations with people I know or who I want to know, I hate to say they're not a valuable connection because because as the intergalactic ambassador to the Printerverse, I feel everybody is a valuable connection. But LinkedIn is forcing me to
mm,
make judgments. And so that's all I would say is that ultimately, are they engaging with the people you engage with or who you want to engage with? And that's how I'm choosing
yeah.
to
I agree with
classify
everything
as
you've said.
valuable.
I make a point of looking very closely at every connection request,
Yeah,
before accepting a person in, I go to the activity and just check out
yeah,
what what are they contributing, and
yes.
if they're adding value to the world, then you're a welcome new friend. But if I see no posts in the last 90 days and I see
Correct.
21,000 connections, I think you're not contributing anything. You're just building connections for no reason whatsoever, almost like a bragging right to have. I've got 20,000 connections. Like, so what? But you're not contributing anything.
Right.
So that would be my strategy. I
Uh,
think I just briefly saw,
yes,
if you
there's a
connect, do
question.
they
Yes.
know? The answer is
Yeah.
no, they don't.
Right.
But let me give you a little tip, an advanced tip here. If you're going into deletion mode of your connections, turn your profile visibility to off when you're going to check them out, because if you go to their profile in visible mode, i.e. leaving a signal you've been on their profile, and then delete them, if they go to see who's viewed their profile, they've seen you viewed your profile, they go looking at you and they can't find you. There's only one answer to that: they've deleted you. So if
But
you're
they
going to go
can
in,
find you. You're just not a first degree connection anymore. They can still see that you're a second degree.
absolutely, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so they can still see you.
But because you've gone to a second degree connection, they'll know
Okay.
you kind of
Let's
delete.
we technically have 5 minutes left in the webinar. So I just want to, and by the way, we're happy to go over and answer questions. Rob, I think I answered your question about the integrity of a connection by looking at their profile, see who they're talking to, see who they're connected to, what their activity is. If not, find me after and we can have a conversation about that. Tips for sending a connection request to someone you think can that you can add value to without being silly.
Just simply make it really light in tone. So, hey, particularly if that person is engaging, it becomes easier. Hey, Deborah, I really liked that post on XYZ. I'd be honored to be a connection. Have a great week. That's it. Nothing, do not be tempted to sell, as I've already mentioned once. And I'll keep reiterating that because so many people feel the urge to sell something, to move that relationship on. In the beginning, it's just about becoming a connection. When they've accepted a connection request, which, by the way, if you personalize with a message, which you always should, when they honor that with a connection acceptance, send a polite message back afterwards saying, hey, thanks ever so much. I look forward to seeing you around. And then, you know, there's a whole strategy beyond that as to where that relationship might go. But if it's something of importance to me, I'll make a note in my diary a couple of weeks later to check out what they're doing on LinkedIn. You know, what are they posting? I'll interact with their content in order to just build my influence in their world, in order that at some point down the line, when we've had enough of that digital connectivity through our content, there will come a moment in time when you can say, hey, Deborah, I really enjoy your content and you know, I love engaging with you. It seems like we've got so much in common. Shall we grab a virtual coffee? Okay. Now, in these times, that is such a powerful intro, and you know, many people can afford 10 minutes to say hello to somebody who they've built some liking of through the exchange of content, and off the relationship goes.
Is video a must interaction for LinkedIn 2021? I say hell yes to that.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't deny the power of LinkedIn.
Hell yes. And
sorry,
not
video.
post it from YouTube. If you can, upload your native video file if you really want to be rewarded.
Yeah, if you
LinkedIn
link out to
salivates
YouTube,
over it.
It gets suppressed again. So yeah, upload native on LinkedIn. Listen, what about this for an idea? I come to your profile. I read a lovely about section that's telling me how you can help me when I go to your profile, and then I get to featured. You know, that little bit of rich media below there. Most people underutilize that. What about a 30-second intro of you to camera? As the first intro, say, hey, thanks for visiting my profile. Really pleased to see you. I hope you found what you're looking for. Listen, if I can help you any further, let's just grab a coffee. Let's grab 10 minutes to say hello, because I'm sure we could explore together how it can be a benefit to you. That's going to be a 20, 30-second video.
100%.
On your profile. The power of that is just unbelievable. Your personality comes across, your message comes across, and you're personable. It's going to leverage you beyond everybody else by a million miles, and therefore really powerful. So video cannot be ignored.
Right.
Super valuable.
Okay, there's people flying in questions now. They want to know where you add that. It's on your profile. What's the name of the section down there? Highlights, current projects, features.
That's in the featured section, yeah.
In the features section, you just
which appears underneath, directly underneath the about section.
It's on your profile.
You can add videos. You can have you could add PDFs. You could add
images.
PowerPoint,
you can add anything now. You can upload. You can upload documents. Okay. If you are using a graphic, are you able to link the image? No, but if you're sharing a link and it has a preview image, that image shows up and technically becomes the link.
Yeah.
It's not like a blog post where you can highlight the image and put a URL on it. I hope that was the question. Where is the invisible off profile not visible option in privacy settings?
That's in profile viewing options in your settings. It's in the visibility. So if you scroll down the visibility section, you can turn your profile viewing option to off. So there's three. There's on. It's usually the default is in the on. There's a middle section which is like semi-on, which is ignore that. And the bottom one is the private. So when you're in that mode, whether you pay or you don't pay, people do not know you've visited their profile. But let me tell you this. Quick fire one. Do not remain in the private mode, because you stop seeing people who are viewing your profile, and that is really brilliant intelligence, on LinkedIn. So, I go every day to see who's checking me out, who's looking at me. That opens the door to a new relationship. And if you turn yourself to private, you stop seeing that data, which is a killer. So don't do that. Right. Keep yourself on.
I do want to be mindful of the time. So, Lewis, Nigel, there are no cross platforms work well with LinkedIn. LinkedIn does not want you leaving the platform. Any links are no fly, or put them in the comments. Don't put them in the
or put them in the comments,
or do what Nigel said about cheating it. But there's nothing friendly about LinkedIn. As a matter of fact, their API causes all the problems, because they do not let people, like, I can't track any stats on LinkedIn. It's a nightmare. Okay. let's just quickly, before we lose people, and again, thanks everyone for hanging in there. Let's just focus a little on looking for work, talking to people about that, networking in that manner for anybody on the call here who might be in that position.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's one of the hard ones, but when we get busy, we stop being active on LinkedIn. And then when we need LinkedIn to be useful to us, we've kind of died on to the algorithms. So the biggest recommendation I can make is just have a little bit of consistency about being on LinkedIn a little and often is what I would say is the biggest underpinning of a likely attractiveness. But then just share what you know in terms of your content sharing. Everybody's got experiences. Sometimes a young person, 21 years old, haven't got a first job, said, I have no experience. How can I talk about experience, Nigel? Have you stacked shelves at Walmart? Oh yeah, I've done that. Have you worked in a bar? Yeah, I've done that. Well, what did you experience? What did you learn? What fun did you have? What message can you give me from things you learned about those early life experiences? We're all 20 years old at some point, irrespective of how old we are. We've got things we've learned on this journey, and just to share those experiences and just be personable. It's not all business. That would be really boring. I have to say, when I share a more vulnerable, personal post, I get more interaction on that post when I sort of open up a bit more of my life to the audience. Now, I'm not suggesting that you do that all the time, because that wouldn't really suit LinkedIn. But I find being personable, sharing knowledge, being likable and building that network around you is really valuable. And what happens when you do that is you do build a tribe of people who want to help each other. It's a wonderful thing that kind of happens in a community, that actually people are there to support each other. And if you contribute into that community, they pay you back with rewards that pay back over time. So it's like being on the platform, contributing, sharing in other people's posts as well as pushing out your own. Building your presence, looking to connect with new people, connect with leaders, connect with business leaders. Look for influencers in the sector that you're in, whether designers, creatives, printers, paper people. Most people are very open to being connected with if you go about it in the right way. And therefore you just constantly build your network, because depending on the level of number of connections you've got, I'm still building my network. When I talk about connections, I still want to build my network with good people who can add value to my life, and therefore that is the path I would go on. And optimize your profile, Deborah. In the about section, make sure that it's very clear what your skills are, and give me a tangible example of those skills. Most people just lack any depth in the about section. So give me examples. I've worked on these graphics packages. I've run these presses. I've achieved this volume of sales. I've grown this department, as head of department, and now look after 4 people. Tell me something about what you give to the world. And that all of that content resonates when a person that you don't know looks at your profile for the first time, goes, this is exactly the person I'm looking for. But if you don't put that information in there, they can't guess it. So it's up to you to put it in there to be attractive to the audience you're trying to be attractive to.
Also, recommendations are your friends, everybody. And you can ask people for recommendations, and you should. And if you're looking for a job, don't get everybody giving you recommendations on the thing you do primarily. Make sure you get recommendations for everything you do, whether this wasn't even their responsibility, but they're such a team player. So that's your team player recommendation. And then you have the recommendations for the skills you actually have. You have recommendations from people, clients or customers or partners, who can tell people about how you handle business. I always say to, if there are any printers on the line, get a customer to say how you solved a crisis for them. That attracts a print buyer like me to say, oh, they can handle a crisis. I need to know that because I have lots of crises. So that is really important for job hunting too. And definitely want to keep those fresh. You can, the worst time to ask for recommendations is when you need them. So you want to get your recommendations now, especially from people you currently work with, unless you've well, I guess we're not in the office now, but everyone knows, like, why is Jenny all dressed up today? Like, and she's asking me for LinkedIn, recommendations. It kind of, puts a signal that maybe Jenny's looking for a job. But in this case, it's just keep it constant, ask people, and it's really good if you can develop relationships to get recommendations from people who it could influence hiring decisions from other people.
Yeah. Deborah, can I add on that point as well? There's a skills section as well. It used to be called endorsements in the old language. If you don't go in and take charge, if you like, of your own skills, LinkedIn will present them in the order for which you've been endorsed for them the most. Now, that may not tie in to actually what your genuine top skills are. So the
Correct.
3 that appear above the line may be completely random compared with what they should be. So I urge you to go in there, go into the edit button, pin, which is a language LinkedIn uses when you're in there, pin the 3 that you want to be at the top, irrespective of whether you've been endorsed for them as many times or not. So that the 3 that are the most important to you are the 3 that appear visible before people click see more. Yeah. And while I'm at it, make sure that you fill as many skills as you possibly can inside there, even if they're not visible, because if not, LinkedIn will fill them randomly with things for you. It's just a thing that happens. So make sure your skills are all up to date, and the top 3 in particular are the ones that are most representative of the best 3 skills you have.
I'm laughing because the things that people say are my top skills, I'm like, I don't do that. I've never done that in my entire life. But LinkedIn shows it to them and they click it. And that's the other thing. You used to get notifications that somebody endorsed you. I haven't seen one in a long time, but I know people are still endorsing me for stuff. So I don't know what happened there. Is there that's a good question, Cindy. Hold on one second. Okay. Do you have any preference if you were going to tag a bunch of people, Nigel? Would you tag them in the post? Would you tag them in the image? Would you tag them in the comments? Do you have a preference? LinkedIn have a preference?
Again, it depends on the context, but generally speaking, I would tag them in comments. Tagging them visibly in the post itself, I think is just bad form. If they are in the image, the person then tag them in the image. But if they're not, that's again, bad form to deliberately tag an image with somebody who's not in an image. So I would definitely put them in comments and actually explain. I'm adding X, Y, and Z here because I really want them to know about this. And they can't possibly miss this great event or whatever. Give it some context as opposed to just list a load of people in comments. That just appears really spammy to me.
Okay, we'll agree to differ on that. It depends upon why you're tagging them. So motivation really, really, really matters here.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's a really good question that I'm thinking we would have a debate on this, but I'm gonna defer to you. You're the expert today. Have you seen on LinkedIn now they have, like, some people have the images and it says open to work on them? Have you seen these? Yeah. What is your opinion on that?
Yeah, it's a really, really interesting question. I'm not generally in favor of it. I'm not sure if we have a different opinion on this.
No, I actually thought you were going to like them. I don't like them.
Do you know what? I think it looks a bit desperate. So I would rather
that's harsh.
Explain the context of my situation in the about section and give it, I can't make something up quickly enough, but I've had 20 years as a graphic artist. I've worked for there's several top agencies, and of course, as many have found themselves in these difficult times. I'm now looking for my next opportunity. You can tell that story in the about section, give it context, give it shape. To badge yourself as open to work, or even worse, putting it in your headline, open to opportunities. Oh, nobody's searching LinkedIn for people looking for opportunities.
Right.
They're looking for skills, they're looking for qualities and experience. So for me, the short answer to that is not altogether in favor of them, but I can see why in some instances it might be relevant for some people.
Okay, so if I may, I want to give a little counter to that, because I'm putting myself in the recruiter or the headhunter or the person at the business looking for people.
Mm-hmm.
More than likely, they don't want to read that summary. LinkedIn's going to give them a bunch of, they're going to search designer in Alabama, and it's going to give them a bunch of things, and they're going to have to quickly decide by the headline or something that gets noticed, that I'm going to have to look through, let's say the search result is 75 people. In that particular case, open to work, in my mind, moves you to the top of that consideration list.
Okay.
I'm just saying, but
yeah,
I have to say, as a regular person, I'm not an HR person, but as a regular person, when someone wants to connect with me with that open to work thing, I get nervous, because if I can't really, I'm assuming that's why they want to connect with me. They want me to help them do something, and I can't always do it depending upon what they've said about themselves. I know there's no way I can help this person. So it is a little, it could be, I think it puts a lot on the person that you want to connect with. Is there a way to turn that off? I don't know how it gets on. I thought,
yeah, Rob's making, I'm just opening the chat. Rob's making a point. You can make that visible only to recruiters.
Oh, bonus, do that.
Yeah, which is true. But I think the better way around all of this is to make your headline, that's the text that appears under your profile image, express what you do and what you're looking for in that sense. Not looking for a job, but get the keywords. I mean, I'm a skilled graphic artist, 10 years experience working in automotive and industrial, manufacturing or pharmaceutical. What's your specialism? Are you a technical drawer? Or are you a cartoonist? Or, get some context in the headline, and even a recruiter is going to be impressed by seeing the keywords that attribute your values to your profile.
Oh, 100%,
right at the top. So that's for me a more powerful place.
I want to give everyone a really good tip that actually has nothing to do with LinkedIn necessarily, but TikTok is a wealth of information. I don't know if you go over there, but somebody said, if you are looking for a job, to take the literal job description that the company has written, put it on your resume, highlight it, make the text white so that no one can see that it's there. And the artificial intelligence that is reading the resumes will put those resumes right to the top, because it has all the qualifications that the algorithm is looking for. So that is a really amazing, great hack. Exactly. Freaking TikTok. We love TikTok. Rob, the tip about only for recruiters, I'm going to pass that along to so many people. Thank you. I'm very excited about that one, because I see so many, and I'm definitely not a recruiter. So I don't see any more questions. Is there anything else? We didn't cover groups, but maybe that's for next time.
I've got to mention this. I'm excited about your meeting tomorrow with LinkedIn, Deborah, because somebody at LinkedIn has said, I want to talk to Deborah because you've got an engaged group that's amongst the top interactive groups on LinkedIn, and we want a conversation with you to learn how we can help. LinkedIn never do this, man. Honestly, we've been at this, a long time. And it's just happened today, hasn't it, Deborah? It's a moment in time of that opens up potential doors to something really interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering if, because, you know, LinkedIn did a lot of damage to groups. I'm not here to go in about that, but actually I do wonder, is this the point when they're actually beginning to listen to group managers, and are they going to turn the tide and into taking communities in the direction of communities? They're not groups, they're communities.
And that's what he actually called it, a community. And
Yeah.
they also, if you are in groups, you might want to look now. They put this little alarm bell. And so they're starting to tell people when there's activity in the groups. People are asking about Sales Navigator. Do you want to take that on for a second?
Yeah. Okay. Sales Navigator. Okay. Where do I? Okay. Let's take it in a slightly more logical order. We've got free LinkedIn. Nothing wrong with free. We can be very successful on free. Then the natural upgrade to LinkedIn Basic, if you like, is business or premium, and that gives you slightly extended features from Basic. The biggest one that I value from the most is the ability to see all the people who viewed my profile over the last 90 days.
And also you get advanced search results when you search people. You don't just get the 25, right. You get everybody.
Yeah, so that's almost worth the, you know, the uplift on its own. So that is the one that falls inside a natural move from an improvement on the LinkedIn platform. Now, Sales Navigator is actually a different platform, and not a lot of people appreciate that till they get there and they go, well, this is different. This looks different. In fact, it looks very much like LinkedIn used to do, Deborah, when you know, back in the day, and it's kind of the old-fashioned versions of LinkedIn, but it's there as a tool for people who are harnessing and trying to develop a strategy around lots of prospects. So, you know, if you're trying to manage the growth of hundreds, if not thousands of prospects, then Sales Navigator's definitely got some advantages. You can categorize people into groups, which you can't really do on LinkedIn. You can be notified when, you know, if you put people into tagged groups, when they're active on LinkedIn, Sales Navigator will notify you to say, hey, Nigel has posted something that you might be interested in, which again, basic LinkedIn doesn't do. That's the algorithms will work it out. So LinkedIn leverages you into a different level of interaction, but you know, it's not cheap. You know, on the other hand, if you convert a few good sales from it's not a lot of money. So, but I find a lot of people have Sales Navigator and then don't really maximize from having it. So, you know, I think there's so much more to be done from free and premium that organically can help you achieve your goals, that you don't just have to, you know, you don't get anything from Sales Navigator, just you pay for it. You've still got to know how to work the system, and the technology. And you have to work the system. Okay, Nigel. Everybody is thrilled with everything that you've shared, and they actually said that we're a good team. So we brought the band back together. We will definitely talk to Siobhan and APC about a follow-up event, and we're thrilled to do that. Please connect with Nigel Cliff if he'll have you, of course, on LinkedIn. But Nigel, usually you have some pretty handy stuff, so I'm assuming that as a lovely follow-up, you'll send some information out to everybody. Absolutely. From the I've got, you know, my site is linkedintraining.co.uk, you know, a UK suffix. So take a look there. There's tons of resources. Listen, I've got a mission to help as many people as I can on this journey of life. LinkedIn is such a powerful platform to achieve so much. I'm happy to give anybody a little bit of time to help them on that journey. So just throw questions at me, you know, send me a message, say hi, let's connect. And if you've got a question, just hit me up with a question. Honestly, I'd be delighted to help anybody out there.
Guys, absolutely fabulous, incredible content. Yeah, it's awesome to see so much interaction in the chat and the Q&A and everything. And yeah, did a great job at answering everything as well. So let's definitely talk about that part 2. Excellent. Well, thank you everybody so much. And until we speak again, network long and prosper, everybody. Bye.
Good to see you all. Thank you.
Cheers.